Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. And if I might also just add my personal condolences to the Webb family and Danita and to Richard, whom you all may know as Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club. We've really appreciated their entire family's contributions to our community. And then what more can be said about Bud Crawford other than that was truly an amazing display of talent and dominance. We've had him to the City Council in these chambers before to honor him. We have a Terrence Crawford Street, but this was truly next level, so we'll have to up our game as well as a city and recognize him. And I know those plans are in the works. And always great to still see him rocking those Omaha trunks. What a great ambassador for our community. Madam Clerk.
Item 6, a resolution to remove Vinny Palermo as a council member for District 4.
The vote on number 6 today, this is not a public hearing. This is a matter of due process. We'll have a brief presentation from the City Attorney, Mr. Kuzy.
Matt Kuzy, City of Omaha Law Department. The item before you, item number 6, is the resolution to remove Vinny Palermo from the District 4 council seat that he currently currently occupies. With regard to that matter, I'm prepared to offer to the council the following exhibits to take into consideration. The first is what's been marked as exhibit number 1. This is section 2.05 of the City of Omaha's Home Rule Charter that indicates that a council member may be removed from office by being absent from regular council meetings for 3 consecutive calendar months without being excused by the council. Exhibit number 1 goes on to say that the council shall be the judge of and be responsible for removing by resolution a council member from office for any of the reasons contained in section 2.05. The next is what I've marked as exhibit number 2. This is an entry of appearance by W. Randall Paragas in the case of Aubrey Palermo versus Vincent Palermo. This document is being offered to show that W. Randall Paragas is the attorney for Mr. Palermo. Exhibit number 3 is a letter dated July 25th, 2023 from the Omaha City Council signed by Council President Pete Festerson informing Mr. Paragas on behalf of Mr. Palermo of today's hearing, which indicates that today on August 1st at 2:00 p.m. this hearing will occur. Exhibit number 3 was hand delivered by to Mr. Paragas, by a member of the City of Omaha's Law Department. Exhibit number 4 is the oath of office taken by Vinny Palermo on June 7th, 2021, when he was re-elected to his position. Lastly is exhibit number 5, which is the journal record from meetings from April 25th through July 25th to show that 3 consecutive months of regular council meetings, Councilman Palermo has been absent from it. The journal indicates that Mr. Palermo was not present at the roll call at the beginning of each meeting. Also, exhibit number 5 indicates on the record of any votes of any matters that were taken up by the council that Mr. Palermo was not present to vote. I'm going to offer to the council all exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to consider in this matter. These exhibits indicate that Mr. Palermo has met the conditions of section 2.05 of the charter, and that is why the resolution is before the council today. I will take any questions at the appropriate time from the council.
Thank you for that background and for the legal basis of what we're doing here today. I would now allow an opportunity for Mr. Palermo or his attorney to be heard. Let the record reflect Mr. Palermo or his attorney are in attendance at the meeting today. I'll then take a point of privilege as president to address this issue, then we'll see if council members have other questions or remarks as well. Let me say that this has been a difficult time for the City Council, and I know it's been a difficult time for the residents of District 4. As a 4-term City Council member and a 3-term City Council president, I care deeply about the integrity of this body and how the city conducts its business. As outlined by Mr. Kuzy, I believe it's our duty today to act in accordance with the City Charter Section 205 that addresses unexcused absences. This is not a determination of guilt or innocence today, but it does require us to be in compliance with that section of the City Charter. The Law Department's interpretation is that the last 3 months of absences are unexcused, and I agree with that interpretation. So I notified Mr. Palermo and his representatives of this violation last week, and I'm prepared to act upon it today. Some would have liked to have seen a vote to vacate the seat sooner than that, but I want everyone to understand that we're obligated to follow the city charter in these matters and state laws regarding these matters. And in accordance with those laws, this was the earliest opportunity we had to address this issue and by which we could take action. Similarly, we must follow the city charter and the state law, which prescribe that our new member must be appointed by the remaining 6 members of the council, should this seat be vacated today. So following this vote, I will detail an open and transparent and public process we're prepared to announce today to restore representation to District 4 as soon as possible. I'll speak more to that here in a little bit, but I first want to thank City Council staff and my fellow City Council members for working together during this time to address issues in South Omaha on our agenda and to work with constituents in South Omaha that had issues or needed attention. I know I spent a lot of time on it and a lot of time in South Omaha as well. So at this time, I'd request a motion to approve this resolution that would remove Councilman Palermo from office and officially vacate the seat.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I would just like to add more clarity to this body, to the city of Omaha, more particularly to people within my community as it relates to defining what unexcused absence is. Defining unexcused absences during city council meeting is crucial to establish standards, attendance standards, ensure accountability, and maintain transparency. Clear guidelines will help council members understand the consequences of missing meetings without valid reasons, fostering responsible participation and effective decision-making for the betterment of the city governance. So at this time, Matt, if you could please offer the clarity regarding how we arrived at unexcused absence in this instance.
Matt Cusey, City of Omaha Law Department. While the charter does not find excused or unexcused, I think that you would find in many other similar situations in our state statutes and our ordinances, not every single term is or can be defined. That is why the council and the city has a law department where that advice can be offered and presented. In this circumstance, I would say 2 things. One, I think it's within the discretion of the council chair who is elected to this position to determine whether absences are excused or unexcused. Secondly, I think it's incumbent upon the person requesting the excuse to make that request. To date, I am unaware of any attempt or any excuse that Mr. Palermo has made to this council to ask to be excused, whether in writing or through a representative or anything like that. I think when an excuse is being sought to miss a meeting, whether you're sick or on vacation or car broke down, something like that, that would be considered an excuse and that would be conveyed. But if someone is not going to make the request that their absence be excused, then it stands to reason that they have no basis to complain that their absence is unexcused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just wanted to be clear in my comments that as the president stated that we are following the city charter, the Constitution, and state law. In serving with Mr. Palermo for 2 years, Councilman Palermo, I will just say that he was always helpful when I had an issue that I needed to discuss regarding constituents or city services. He was always helpful in making me a better councilman, reaching out to constituents. Is evident by the charges and the challenges he's facing legally. I will just say that I will continue to pray for Vinny and his family as they go through this, because it's a tough ordeal, not only for the city and District 4, but also his personal family, what they're going through. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Melton?
Thank you, and I would concur. I think this has been very difficult for everyone. This isn't something that the allegations are such that will be worked out in federal court, but there's enough there that the federal court has chosen not to release Mr. Palermo pending his trial. We aren't here today to determine whether or not any of those allegations are true, whether there's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. We're simply sitting here as a body wanting to have representation for District 4 because District 4 constituents deserve to have representation. We've had to replace council members twice in just kind of the recent decade or so. The last one was Rich Pauls, who took a higher position, which is addressed in 2.05. But then Chuck Segerson, who I think would still be serving, as long as he possibly could have. I think he would have continued to be reelected. He was loved by District 7, but he suffered a stroke and was unable to come to meetings. It was very difficult, I think, for the council, but even though that to no fault of his own, once he missed the 6 months of meetings, the council then had to vote to remove him. And I think President Festerson was here, and that was a very difficult time for the council. And so even when you have a council member that was as loved as Councilmember Segerson, there comes a time when the district and the district needs representation. And if you're not capable of actually doing the job that you took your oath of office to take, and part of that oath, it states to perform the duties of office. One of our main duties is actually just to show up. People always say that's, in life, 90% of it is showing up. So just showing up for the meetings and voting. You also need to be able to respond to the residents in your district. And so regardless of the reasons at this point, since Councilman Palermo has neither requested that his absences be excused, and since he has not shown up at any meetings and it doesn't appear that he will be capable of attending anymore, it's imperative that this council start the process of replacing Councilman Palermo for the members of District 4. And so that is why I seconded the motion in support of this today.
Thank you. Mr. Harding?
Thank you, Mr. President. I said some of this last week, but I think a lot of it bears repeating. So I'd first state that the resolution, and it was very, I think, having the city attorney get up and present the exhibits as well as what we are acting upon, talk about what we're acting on today. And whether or not you think the absences were excused or unexcused, the resolution certainly and simply states that these absences are not excused. So if you have a different opinion that they are excused, then vote your conscience in that manner. But the resolution clearly states that what the body is acting on is that these absences are unexcused and therefore has met the definition of removal in section 2.05 of the city charter, being that 3 months of meetings have been missed with unexcused absences, and that's simply what the resolution says. As was stated before, this is not a determination of innocence or guilt. That will be for the courts to decide. But what we are deciding on here today is that the obligations and the responsibilities to which this council person was elected to serve his district cannot be met going forward. It's been 3 months since this process started. As Council President Festerson said, this is the quickest that we could act upon this, and we are taking those appropriate actions immediately so that the people of District 4 have representation. Again, it's been 3 months that they have been without. I said this last week, and others have said it here today. We've picked up the mantle and the lurch as best we could, both the city council members, and I called out the council staff last week, and I'll do it again. And it has been stated earlier today, they have done a lot of heavy lifting to make sure the people of District 4 had responses to questions or concerns, and their issues and their interests became our issues and our interest. And unfortunately now, when this process is to be unveiled as to how long it will take to fill this vacancy, it will likely be another 2 months. So for 5 months, at least, District 4 will have gone without representation, and that's far too long. And it was said earlier today that we appeared to be chomping at the bit to replacing Vinny Palermo or taking him off of City Council. But you know who's chomping at the bit? Is District 4. They want representation. And so we are to begin that process, assuming that this resolution passes. We are to begin that process today. But I want everyone to know, have realistic expectations, as it will take the better part of 2 months to fill this. So this is not a happy day. Not a happy day for Omaha. But like we have challenges in our lives, both in our family or at our places of business, we will move on from that. And I hope when we seat the next person to fill this spot, we will work together for the betterment of Omaha, because that's what we were elected to do. That is our responsibility, and we will fulfill that responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to concur and voice my support for the words that have already been spoken. It is a solemn day. It's not a day that we look forward to. Honestly, last December was not a good day. Last April was not a good day. It's a tough day, but we're here to do our job, and I'm ready to do that and make a vote on my conscience, and I feel like it's warranted. Thanks.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
The seat is now officially vacated. As is required by city charter and state law, the council will now proceed with an appointment process to fill the seat. As we speak, information about the process and associated requirements and deadlines are being made available to the public and to the media, and will be available on the City Council's website and the City Clerk's office by the end of today. In summary, we'll be accepting cover letters, resumes, and application forms from qualified electors of District 4. That means registered voters who have resided in District 4 for at least 6 months. And we encourage anyone interested to apply. Completed applications will be due to the City Clerk by 3 p.m. on Tuesday, August 15th. So applicants will have about 2 weeks from today to submit their interest. Credentials will be verified and background checks will be performed. City Council will identify candidates for public interviews, and those interviews will take place in this chamber and be broadcast to the public starting at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 7th. We anticipate a selection and a public vote on our new member at our Tuesday meeting, September 12th, during our regular meeting. So that would outlines a process of about 45 to 60 days by which a new member can be seated and sworn in. It'll be a thorough and thoughtful process, but also done with urgency. As we know, it's important to restore our representation to District 4 as soon as possible, and it's important that the City Council get back to full strength. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Hokkaido Ramen House located at 1303 South 72nd Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom.